One aspect of the US aggression against Iran that's attracted particular attention is the prominent role played by Pakistan in the negotiations which are taking place on this. And as this is a new role for Pakistan to play such a prominent role in such a major question, I'm very pleased to be able to talk to Jai Kumar, who's the president of Pakistan's prominent student organization, the Progressive Students Federation. He's a founding member of Socialist Reading Group and a sub-editor of the magazine Surkh Sawera, which is Red Dawn. I'm John Ross. I'm a senior fellow at Chonyang Institute for Financial Studies at Renmin University of China and a member of the International No Cold War Collective. So, okay, to start, Jai. Okay, Pakistan's acquired a new international prominence as a mediator in the negotiations between Iran and the US in the US aggression against Iran. Why do you think that Pakistan's been able to play this role? How independent do you think Pakistan's role is in this? And do you think it is mainly transmitting messages or is playing a key mediation role itself?
Uh, Thank you, John, and thank you for No Cold War to organizing such an amazing talk on a perspective video about the ongoing crisis in Iran and the escalation between the United States and the Iranian government. So, being a mediator, Pakistan's emergence as a mediator between Washington and Tehran has rest on several converging factors rather than one alone. So Pakistan shares a nearly 1,000-kilometer border with Iran, giving it a direct stake in stability next door. And while simultaneously holding a formal defense pact with Saudi Arabia, signed in back to September 2025. So this dual positioning meant Pakistan had sustained consultation with regional players, including Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Qatar and Egypt, as well as channels to Tehran, a rare combination we can see in the recent history. So Pakistan's early condemnation of US-Israeli attack and strike on Iran was what won the trust of Tehran. So, and nominating Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize simultaneously and building commercial ties through mineral deals, crypto cooperation with Trump-linked World Liberty Financial and Oil Field Developments Agreement, which gave Pakistan a working channel into Trump's inner circle. But in my opinion, it seems the MOU, the memorandum signed between two nations or two states or two parties, and Pakistan plays as a mediator, was never intended to resolve the underlying dispute because the Pakistan's position, we can see Pakistan has provided just only a wedding hall for a ceremony and perform certain rituals, and no more than this Pakistan can do. So more importantly, in my opinion, Iran cannot lose its control over waterway, the Strait of Hormuz, because it's deterrent tool for Iran. So they were prepared to accept the risk of the war to preserve this strategic advantage. And furthermore, Pakistan heavily dependent on both parties. It cannot independently take any decision or take a part to mediate the talks between both parties. So Pakistan cannot dependently influence one single party or United States or Tehran, Iran. Sorry. So Pakistan little can do to de-escalate. So we can see the recent MOU signed on the 7th June, and both parties did not pay heed to Pakistan when they started escalation against each other again over again. So once they feel they have reached at a point where war favors someone, then they will come to the table for talks. And as always, Pakistan play a role of mediator and no more than this. So this is the position of Pakistan as a mediator.
Right. In the Western media, there's also a lot of analysis that Pakistan is working particularly closely with China on this issue. Do you think that's true? How do you see the general relations between Pakistan and China on the one hand and Pakistan and the US on the other?
Yes, John, definitely. The China's link is real. We can see the Vice President or Vice Prime Minister Isaac Dar went to the China, and there was a joint five initiative point for Gulf and Middle East peace were made in the Beijing, and Beijing endorsement gave Pakistan mediation added a legitimacy to the talks. Since Iran is more likely to trust a process backed by China than one solely by Washington, because Iran cannot trust solely on Washington. So yes, China's link is real, and Pakistan is heavily dependent on China. The support China has given in the recent history, the technology, the infrastructure, and also the BRI, the Belt Road Initiative, is a web of highways, railways, and ports that spans more than 150 countries. While the China Pakistan Economic Cooperation or Economic Corridor, sorry, a part of the BRI is valued at about $62 billion and links China's Man province to Arabian Sea at the Gwadar port. So, on the other hand, Trump hosted Pakistan's field Marshal Asim Munir at the White House, and Pakistan reduced its threatened tariff rate from 29% to 19%. And at the same time, we see India has 50% of the tariff, and the two countries signed deals on oil field development, minerals, and crypto. Pakistan is balancing rather than choosing one global power. So hedging between Washington and Beijing simultaneously. So it's costly for Pakistan. Pakistan is leveraging China's dependence on it to extract concessions while also quoting the USA, and warn this dual hedging is unrealistic and could ultimately cost Pakistan's trust with both patrons, both United States and China. So Pakistan-US relation have generally warmed under the Trump's second term presidency due to military exercises and high-level visits, business deals, and etc. etc. But this is viewed as tactical and transactional, while the China's relationship with Pakistan remains structurally deeper than United States infrastructure, defense, hardware, and we can see the CPEC, the huge investment in terms of development and structural development, even as it currently shows some strain over debt and security concerns for Chinese nationals. But the US will never be Pakistan's long-term strategic partner the way China is.
In its mediation role, Pakistan obviously in regular contact with Saudi Arabia and other states in West Asia, as well as with Iran, that is, with the Gulf monarchies, etc. Do you think this is producing any long-term effect on Pakistan's role in the region, or is this just going to be a temporary effect, do you think?
Yeah, John, Pakistan has a long-term relation with Saudi Arabia, and now its defense relationship with Saudi Arabia has moved from training assistance to an actual mutual defense treaty. And during the war, Pakistan deployed roughly 8,000 troops and 16 aircrafts to drone squadron and the Chinese HQ-9 air defense system to Saudi Arabia. With reports, the confidential pact could extend up to 80,000 Pakistani troops, and this would be true in some cases because analysts are analyzing the position where Pakistan will, facilitate Saudi Arabia with defense system. So this is a profound shift, making Pakistan part of the Gulf security architecture rather than a peripheral partner. So Pakistan has also began mediating Libya's functional dispute with United States and Saudi, Qatari, and Turkish backing, suggesting the mediator role is generalizing beyond this one crisis. But Pakistan's relationship with Iran itself remains the thin underneath the diplomacy, the dispute, and the public sympathy for Iran among Pakistan. So there is no love, we can say, lost between the Pakistani and Iranian government, and the mediating leverage is a function of this specific crisis. Once the war ends, if it does, and hopefully it does, and then the US and the Gulf states no longer need an urgent channel to Tehran. So Pakistan's centrality could fade, especially since it has no enforcement power over any deal it brokers. So the defense and security integration with Saudi Arabia and the Gulf looks durable. That's formal treaty with real deployments of troops and the defense system, not just a crisis diplomacy. And the mediator of first resort role with Iran specifically is more contingent on this conflict continue to need outside the brokers. It could be it could well said once or if a final settlement is reached. So yes, in that case, the relationship of Pakistan with Tehran is temporary, but the relationship with Saudi has been a long-term relationship after 1980s, we can see, and since the deal which had done between two states, a defense treaty back to September 2025. So this is formal, relation with Gulf region.
Right. Finally, last, in addition to Pakistan's international role, what do you think is what is the direct effect of the war in Pakistan? Is it being significantly affected by the high oil prices? What's the effect on the economy or society? And what do you think is the attitude of the government and the population to the actual war? Who are they supporting? Who are they sympathetic to? In addition to the formal mediating role, right?
The religious sentiments here in Pakistan, Pakistan is a religiously driven society. So yes, Pakistani people has been supported Iran over the escalation between the United States and Iran. So in that case, the population has a sentiment towards Iran, and government is not responding in that effect. So in terms of the loss and the impact of the war, so there is a statistical data which shows very huge impact on Pakistan and the working class people, especially of the Pakistan. So Pakistan mostly imports around 40% of its energy, depends heavily on Qatar's LNG supplies, of which were cut off by the conflict, and the monthly oil import bill surged from 300 million dollar before the war to 800 million dollar after the war, which wiped out 2 years of economic progress. And so the inflation is also climbed from 11.7% in May 2026 after 10.9% in April. So yes, the economic projects, foreign reserves swellings, and the pre-war 20 billion reserves reduced to the $6.8 billion. So fuel prices were raised roughly 20% at the pump, and this is landing on an economy already strained by years of inflation and debt. So Pakistan, alongside Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, is amongst the hardest hit importing countries in Asia, because oil shocks transmit rapidly into inflation and exchange rate pressure through widening current account deficit. So Pakistan has tried to walk a genuine tightrope, officially condemning attack on the Iran at the one end and by Israel and United States, and condemning Iranian attacks on the Gulf states, while separately reassuring Tehran that Saudi soil would not be used to launch attacks against it, honoring its defense pact obligation to Riyadh without being drawn into direct confrontation with Iran. So yes, this has bring something much deeper in the Pakistani society, that people show aggression towards the Pakistani mediocre role, that at the one side you are facilitating the talks, you are going to the Washington and nominating Donald Trump as a Nobel Peace Prize, and the on the other hand you are stand with Tehran. So what's your diplomatic and strategic position? So yes, Pakistani population and Pakistani people raises questions over their engagement with both Iran and United States, that which part of the deal you are in, or which part you belong more. So we can see after Khamenei's assassination, protests erupted across Pakistan, especially among the Shia community, which is roughly 20 to 15, 20% or 25% of the population. And then the other sects also had joined the protest, and 10 to 15 people were killed when the US Marine opened fired the security guards at the US consulate in Karachi, has opened fired on the protester and trying to storm the US consulate in Karachi. So 15 people died in that particular attack, and generally more than 30 people killed nationwide in the protest. So whole country was shocked when the Khamenei's assassination had happened. So Pakistani government tried to leverage that protest as well. So yeah, this is, and while there is a sympathy for Iran and its people at multiple levels of Pakistani society, this doesn't extend to government warmth, and that sympathy has fed public anger at government, because Pakistani Prime Minister simultaneously giving a friendly posture to United States and Iran. So this is double role played by the Pakistani officials. So that sparked an anger among the people, and also the analysts and the intellectuals questioning Pakistan's positions, that will the they are trying to hedging between two global powers, which will cost them a huge cost that Pakistan will pay in the near future. But we'll see the China's position on that tech. So because China is structurally, highly uh, depending on Pakistan's infrastructural development and other web of development. So yes, that.
Thanks very much. That's a highly important perspective, which is not being reported enough in the West. If people want to see the continuing coverage of No Cold War on the US aggression against Iran and many other issues, you can see it at our website, which is nocoldwar.org, on our YouTube channel, and also on No Cold War on X. Thanks very much.